This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this episode of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. Happy New Year to everybody. I know we missed a week last week, and we missed a week before that, where we're back on track. We're back on schedule. And in this week's episode, we've got some information on what's going on with WWE and their testing, as well as mandates in the back. Yeah, we're going to give you all of that. Bill Goldberg dealing with nagging injuries. Is it going to shelf his career? It probably should have been shelved a while ago, but we're going to talk about that as well. We've got a AEW pay-per-view Battle of the Belts going on. We're going to discuss a little bit about that, as well as some awesome stuff that took place this week in AEW. WWE coming off the heels of Day One, their monster pay-per-view. We're going to discuss a little bit about that, as well as what's going on with this current direction in WWE. There's been a massive set of releases that have just taken place this week. So we're going to delve into that and kind of break down what's going on there. Doing it with me, as always, he's the one. He's the only. He is the Doc, John Macaroon. What's up, cuz?
Happy New Year, everybody. Looking forward to this broadcast. I take table shots way better than Rey Fenix. Get up strong, handle my business, and can continue the match. Here to broadcast, podcasting time, baby. I loved taking a little bit of a holiday break, got to watch some wrestling the last couple of weeks and look at it from a different perspective, and had a chance to take in Day One, Raw, AEW, starting the year off strong on TBS. I'm looking forward to it. Got a lot of things on my mind, a lot of great things going on in the world of professional wrestling. A new year, a lot of great things going on. And whenever a company starts the year with a new champion, with some drama associated with it, oh man, I'm ready, cuz. Let's kick this bad boy off.
All right, so WWE had a pretty big pay-per-view. I mean, I'm gonna use finger quotes here and say a pretty big pay-per-view on New Year's Day. It was Day One. It was WWE's pay-per-view to kick off the new year, and it was weird because going into this pay-per-view, there was only one match I wanted to see, and that was Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. Roughly, 30 minutes before the pay-per-view kicks off, you find out Roman Reigns has been pulled because of COVID protocols. So Roman's not in this, but what are you going to do with Brock? What are we going to do with Brock? We've got Brock. Brock's here. He showed up. He's getting paid either way because he's here. Well, let's slip him into a fatal five-way. Brock Lesnar ends up going on to win the WWE Championship, dethroning Big E. What? Like, going into this wasn't like never even on the cards. It wasn't even on the table. And next thing you know, this is the big moment, I guess, coming away from this pay-per-view. Brock Lesnar is now your WWE heavyweight champion, and he's still squaring off with Roman Reigns, who's your SmackDown champion, your WWE Universal champion. Look, I love Brock Lesnar in this new role of his, and I'll be honest with you, I'll be sad if he gets paired with Paul Heyman again, because you're starting to see some personality from Brock Lesnar. But for Brock Lesnar to be put into this match and then to come out the winner, I was super disappointed, especially after I found out who was originally supposed to win. I don't know if it's necessarily better or not. We'll get into that in a few minutes. But what was your reaction to Brock Lesnar, one, getting inserted into this match like 30 minutes before the pay-per-view takes place, and then being the winner of the match?
Absolutely. I think it's the best solution WWE could have came up with because of the fact that Brock Lesnar needs a title. I think at this point in time, when he comes back, he's the new hot babyface, and you are going to set up potentially a hot match with Roman Reigns. And looking ahead, if you wanted to pair Brock Lesnar against Bobby Lashley, then what better way, knowing how it played out. Now, if this is just a regular situation, then no, it's wrong. You don't want to do Big E that way. In no circumstance did Big E deserve to go out like that.
I want to talk about
and
Big
we will,
E too.
Exactly. But for me, I loved it. I think the fact that the crowd cheered really aided it. I loved the addition. Everyone kind of knew it, so it was expected. But I liked the tease of seeing some physicality between Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar for the first time. And honestly, I didn't last because it was day one. It was a long couple weeks, and the pay-per-view was really drawn out. So I fell asleep. during the live.
I fell asleep too.
I fell asleep
Don't
during the
feel
live.
bad.
Yeah, so I woke up and all of a sudden there's Brock Lesnar cheering. I'm like, oh, hell no. But I got a chance to rewatch it. It was okay. A solid matchup. I think it sets up perfectly. Now, I would have set it up for Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania, but that's not happening. They want to rush it. They want to get their stuff up. And now we have to be correct. It's not a pay-per-view anymore. WWE has now shifted, and they're calling these events premium live events because you don't have to pay, and it's very true. If you subscribe to Peacock, you get the pay-per-view. So now, going forward, they're called premium live events, and Day One kicked it off. I thought it was a B- show, solid, nothing that was really like devastatingly awesome that you say, okay, if you missed it, then you're shit out of luck. But I thought that it would, to start the year off, if you're a fan of wrestling and you have Brock Lesnar win it all, that's great. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, it kind of highlights the fact that Big E's run probably among the bottom 7 in the history of the company. I mean, someone on Twitter posted that all the losses and all the losses that he took. Now, of course, he did win and he held the belt for 90 days, but he did take a lot of losses. And to not finish, Day One with the title, I thought kind of diminished the title run of Big E. And maybe he gets it again and can go a little bit longer, but it just kind of felt like, let's just get through the last 3 months and keep it moving, sell some merch, and keep it moving until Brock Lesnar or the big dogs come back. And it's unfortunate, but that's what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think this whole pay-per-view, and specifically this match, encapsulates Big E's run as WWE champ. I don't think it was very good. I think it missed the mark a lot. And for me, you gave it a B-, you said?
Absolutely.
For me,
yep.
For me, this was a C-. And Big E's run was all of these things. And whether it was the booking or Big E I don't think going into this, I wasn't in a place where I didn't think Big E was prepared to handle this. I always thought Big E could handle this, and I always thought he would be a great champion, but he's a really good babyface. And to be an even better babyface, you need a better heel. And I don't think WWE with their Raw programming had that heel that really helped cement him and really helped cement his legacy. You need that premium match. You need that primo match. We're going to talk a little bit about that when we discuss AEW. You need that signature match that really solidifies your run. Big E never got that. Big E was never put in a spot to have that. And I blame that on WWE. For me, Big E's entire run was a waste. It was a total botch. And it sucks because Big E's great. Big E's funny. He's got a ton of personality. He can do a lot of things. He's got the look. I mean, the guy is thick. He's physical. He's not a guy that you put in a ring and you're not going to believe what he's trying to sell. For me, it's just a shame that his run came to an end this way. And I think you're right. If you're in a ratings crisis and you're looking to sell merch and you're looking to boost numbers, Roman Reigns is the best thing you got going. Brock Lesnar is the other best thing you got going. It makes all the sense in the world to put the belt on those guys. I'm similar to you where I fell asleep during this. Like, this was a really long, drawn-out pay-per-view. I don't think it hit the mark in any way. I don't think it was a very good pay-per-view in any way. And what sucked is I was ready for this main event. And honestly, it took you and Kenny coaxing me into watching this because I didn't really want to watch it. There were 100 other things I'd much rather have watched. There were bowl games that I didn't care about that I'd much rather have watched. But you guys were like, nah, give it a shot. Gave it a shot. Ended up getting to the main event. And as everybody was coming out for their entrances, I dozed off. I woke up just as Brock Lesnar was getting the 1, 2, 3 count to win it. And I was like, what the hell just happened? I had to rewind it, go back and watch it. But I just don't think it was a great pay-per-view, and I think it encapsulates and tells you everything you need to know about Big E's run. That brings me to this next question for you. What do you make of this current direction of WWE? You can tell that they're doing a lot of things with NXT. NXT is totally getting rebranded, right? New color scheme, a whole new direction with everything. Letting go of a lot of Triple H people is how we'll kind of deem it. And in my estimation, this whole rebranding with NXT and this whole current direction of WWE is trying to step out of the shadows of some of the past and is a complete affront to Triple H. I mean, you look at some of these names that were released. This is anybody that Triple H had a hand in, anybody that Triple H had a finger on, or anybody that Triple H considered basically a go-to guy. We're talking about Timothy Thatcher, as we're talking about wrestlers. Hatcheman, Danny Burch, Sarah Cummings, who served as the senior vice president, William Regal, which I think is probably the biggest name. William Regal and the very last name that I'm going to bookend this with are probably the two biggest names. But William Regal, who is very close to Triple H, like I can't stress to you how close these guys are, especially through the building and the developing of NXT. David Cooper, you have Ace Steele, who was a coach. You've got a writer named Ryan Katz. You have a producer named Scott Armstrong, and Samoa Joe, released 2 times in less than 12 months with WWE. Add into that, Toni Storm asked for her release, and she was let go back on December 28th. To me, getting rid of William Regal, getting rid of Samoa Joe are just numbskull moves as people in WWE. Like, I just don't, those guys right there know more about wrestling and have had such a hand in bringing you the content you love for NXT and help shape this current direction with a lot of these wrestlers that are on the main roster. So WWE completely blowing up NXT, and you could see it when Braun Breaker came out and he destroyed the NXT X. That was the old X. It's not the new X. It's the old X. Basically signaling a shifting of the guard, a changing, and now we're headed down this path that, I'll be honest with you, I don't really like. I don't like NXT 2.0. I don't watch NXT 2.0, and I used to religiously watch NXT. I don't care about it anymore. Watching WWE programming for me is difficult. I don't mind SmackDown so much, but Raw is a tough get through on a Monday when I could be watching 1,000 other things. What do you make of this seismic shift in WWE and transitioning away from what they used to be?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't watch NXT. I laughed in that, okay, fine, Steiner's boy got the title. That was cool to check into, to learn about, but I had no idea about him and his development, his rise. Obviously, Ciampa put him over. But bottom line, when you lose the Undisputed Era, when you kind of diminish all the stars, and what really hurt NXT in my mind was you build up all these stars, they go to the main roster, and 90% of them flop. What does that say? It just, you reach the height of developmental, and you wanted to kind of make it a third brand where potentially wrestlers could show up at different storylines, but it didn't work. And I think, I don't know if it's cost cutting, if it's just a recognition that they don't want to put effort into it that way, or a true developmental and take a shift away from NXT to highlight Raw and SmackDown. But yeah, I don't watch it. It's just not something that's in my wheelhouse. But I will say this, I've enjoyed Raw. I've enjoyed the angle with Edge and Miz, Maurice getting in the mix, Beth Phoenix. I thought the match at day one was solid. The tag teams have been well. I mean, every time the Usos come out, they draw. They have it. And hey, kudos to the Usos for not getting a DUI. We had the over-under at 3 hours post day one, and it didn't happen. So good. We're happy with that. Brock Lesnar, Bobby Lashley has juice. I think that Seth Rollins and what he's doing with Kevin Owens has that intrigue. So while top to bottom, there are some things you could definitely let go of. I thought Drew McIntyre was wasted on a pay-per-view in a match with, somebody that isn't even worthy of being on a pay-per-view, but he gets over. The women are okay, but they've kind of sort of taken a back seat. I mean, Natalya, Tamina, not even making big pay-per-views anymore. So I understand your point of view of what you're saying, but in regards to the television shows, they're getting a little bit better. But yeah, absolutely. NXT is to the point now where this could be personal, where you're just stripping everybody that was attached to Triple H and you're moving forward. But that's how WWE is, man. I just think that it's a fast-moving situation. You're in. If you're not, if you're a guy like Kevin Owens, ride the wave as much as possible and move and keep it moving. You got to give kudos to guys like Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns for being able to have extended runs. You know what I mean? So I could see where people could be down on it, but Raw was not too bad. It did start off with a long promo with Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman. It was, kind of put together, but I thought it was one of Paul Heyman's better promos. Mm-hmm. I think that he gave, and what he did was, and it was good and bad at the same time, because he put over Big E and saying, look, we have nothing but respect for you. You're one of the greats in the business. That's fine, and you get the rub off of saying that, but it's more meaningful when a company supports you and lets you have a title run, and maybe even you could have had Big E drop the belt the day after WrestleMania. You let him have a WrestleMania moment. I mean, what's another 3 months? You still could have had Brock Lesnar. I mean, literally, if you wanted Brock Lesnar to fight Bobby Lashley, it's so simple. Brock is right there about to win. 1, 2, Bobby Lashley interferes and just pisses off Brock Lesnar. Boom, now you have a match at Royal Rumble. And then you can start the feud, where, hey, I cost you, haha, and just poking the bear nonstop. Big E
Do you think that? I think that'll probably be one of the biggest matches if they can get it to go down.
Yeah,
Bobby Lashley, Brock Lesnar. That was the one match that Bobby Lashley wanted. If they
but
could
they're doing
get
it at
this
Rumble.
to happen,
it's going to be at the Royal Rumble. But here's the problem, and I think people saw it and they immediately put 2 and 2 together. WWE's going back to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
So that kind of indicates that you're not going to change the title. You're going to want the draw. The big draw is Brock Lesnar. So it kind of lends to everybody that says, hey, you're not doing exactly what the fans are looking to do to get over, but they're doing what's best for business. And then with the releases, everybody kind of got all up in arms. But look, do you really care if the vice president of operations is gone? No.
What I care about is William Regal getting let go, and I care about Samoa Joe because
but we still don't know.
William Regal has been the best on-screen character,
right? But you got to remember
WWE as an authority figure. I think probably ever. I think only Vince McMahon's character, Mr. McMahon, only that character has been better than what you've had from Steven Regal.
We still don't know if Regal asked for it. You know what I mean? It's not that big a deal because I really believe that. Back when the first wave happened, like 3 years ago, when it was around the holiday, everyone was like, oh my God, because it was the pandemic, it was cold-blooded because wrestling was shut down, and you had this wave of releases. Now, you don't think in 3 months, William Regal doesn't show up and manage one of the big stars at AEW? He could have a whole new career renaissance. He's prime to be a valet in the next company. So it's not that big a deal, in my mind, in that there's still 2 promotions. If a company wants you, you don't think that Cody Rhodes is going to jump at the chance to work with William Regal? Shit, they should work right lock in step with him. Or you have a general manager, you have an acting guy, or you have a top heel. Whatever you want to do, you now can have a new challenge for William Regal. It gets old. I mean, the guy's been there forever. Do you really want to see another incarnation of what he was doing? He said War Games 50 times. He established his brand. He probably passed on so much information. Eventually speaking, in the WWE, it's more like, thank you. We use you for everything that we feel like, and when we feel like we're done and we got new toys to focus on, we keep it moving. And that's what happened. And I think it's a combination. I don't think William Regal's going to be all that upset, or I don't think he's going to last too long as a free agent. He's going to show up on a promotion because of the vast experience that he has and what he can teach. Oh, my God. Could you imagine what he could do?
If you look at some of the best wrestlers that come out of NXT, they all give kudos to what William Regal has taught them. I mean,
and here's the thing,
Ciampa, Johnny Gargano.
Yeah.
You've got guys, I think Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish and Adam Cole have all taken things from him. And those guys made their names on the indies and in Ring of Honor and in New Japan. And I still think they got stuff from him. So like, let that sink in. Like, this is a guy who's been there, done that, and has basically taught you a ton.
Now, speaking to your shift, the prominent shift is moving away from indie wrestling. Yes. And they're moving toward what we call the draws, the pops, the sports stars, the guys that have come from wrestling, the likes of a previously Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar.
They want like football athletes. Yes. They want gymnasts. That's why they have this new NIL deal with all those college athletes. Because you have a good social media following. Like if you look at, I think there's 2 twin sisters. They're both smoking hot.
Yes.
But if you look at both of them, they've got a ton of following on Instagram and on social media, and they're attractive and they're athletic, and they're like, okay, cool, we can do something with this. And that's why they've got this NIL deal.
Now that I'm a little disappointed in, because that is the true shift away from professional wrestling into sports entertainment, but it's a company. And when you're a company looking to go into a new decade and you're floundering a little bit, you want to create some stars and some names, and they just want to kind of keep it fresh. And that's what it is in WWE, is that once you kind of hit that stage of 38, 39, 40, they're going to start going younger, because that's just what management wants to do. And I don't know. I want to see how this shakes out when they do make runs and things like that. But right now, WWE, you just got to kind of pay attention to the top. But and I think in my mind, the action, the heat, the drama, the intrigue, the freshness is really over at AEW. They got a lot of good things going on, and they got a lot of intrigue, because what's going to happen is they're going to debut probably 5 new people in the next 6 months. And,
absolutely.
And it's going to be fresh. It's going to be cool. So what I like, to be honest with you, WWE is Old Faithful. You go there, you sit there, you pop, you can say, okay, here comes Brock Lesnar, get excited. Seth Rollins, I sent you guys a group message with my kids, dancing to that.
Yeah.
You get the old faithful, you get the nice pop. AEW presents the old school nostalgia feel of like, holy shit, this is happening, or what the fuck, someone could kill themselves out here. The art of like, what the hell is going to happen? So having them juxtaposed against each other, I think is a perfect fit. And for me, I'm going to try and do my best to, not hate too much. We're just going to keep it like, do we like the angles or do we not? But bottom line, I'm watching. It's two distinct styles. But for me, the more emotional discharge comes from watching AEW. Like, holy shit. Hangman Page and Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson continue to have great matches. And the timing of shows continues to be fresh. So when you look at AEW, I'm impressed with what they're doing and how they're moving things forward. Now, are they perfect? No, I think they're starting to drop too much in regards to references to WWE, and it's becoming kind of consistent. And I know the fans like it, the cheap pop, but it's the law of diminishing return. When you keep doing it, it kind of falls flat. So I liked, to be honest, the move to TBS, fine, no problem. It's just really one channel up the dial on my system. So easy to find. When you start off with the classic wrestling match, I thought it was great. I thought at the end that there was a chance there could be new tag champs to kind of start the year off fresh. And kudos to Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. I thought they deserved it and really had a heartfelt reaction. And it sucked for Rey Fenix to go out like that, but dude, that was a sick spot there with Rey Fenix going through the table. And our guy Adam Salget texted me. He was like, "Oh, did you see that?" I was like, "Yeah, I saw it. I definitely had a chance to see that."
Dude,
it was nasty.
So lucky. It's just a bad dislocation.
Yes.
Like we all thought it was broken. We all thought he broke his arm in multiple spots. He gets power bombed or choke slammed through a table by Luchasaurus, and it was just one of those things that we had a good debate about it. I really wish we could bring everybody into our group chat, because our wrestling group chat is fantastic, but it was one of those things where we had a good debate. Like, was it just sloppy on Luchasaurus's part? Was it Rey just not protecting himself? And I think in the end, we all just kind of agreed a little bit that it was just kind of the placement of the table. Here's the thing. Luchasaurus is a big dude. So when he's going to do a move, you got to allow a little bit more of a buffer, because you got to take into account his size.
Yeah, I think, and what it is, you got to hold him just a little bit longer. I think you can't just throw people into a table. You kind of got to go with them a little bit. Yeah. And I think that probably is a correctable type thing. But yeah, it was, at first you didn't really pay attention because it was Fast and Furious. But when
it was so fast.
When you see the replay, you see him pointing down and you're like, oh shit, which maybe lends to the idea that maybe there was a switch up, that they decided to potentially put the titles on him. But dude, it was awesome.
I mean, that whole match from the start where the lights go out, there was something that wasn't paid off, and it was because of Rey's injury. So like the lights go out. I think we were all expecting something with Aleister Black and the whole King of Black Foundation, his group that he's got going on. I think we were going to get to see who the new member was that's been added to his group. And we didn't get that. And I think you're right. It was probably a hard pivot, because even Jurassic Express looked surprised when they won. Like if you go back and you watch it and you watch Jungle Boy's reaction after the 1, 2, 3, I think he was a little bit shocked that he got the win. So it was, I think this was a thing that was called in the ring, like, okay, we got to pivot quick. And to me, I think that's awesome. When you've got guys in the back that recognize an issue, right? All of a sudden, one of your top stars goes down with a bad arm. Like, you're not sure if it's dislocated, you're not sure if it's broke, but instantly they're taken out. What do? So what you don't have is a tag team that has to forfeit their belts. What do? Call a quick pivot. All right, Jurassic Express is winning. What we had planned, scrap it. It's amazing to me that people can do that sometimes, because this. I sometimes get so structured and so regimented. Like, this is the game plan. We're sticking to the game plan no matter what. And I don't do that pivot. For them to be able to do that pivot on the fly and to have it come off seamless like that was pretty freaking awesome. I thought it was great. You touched on it earlier too. Bryan Danielson and Hangman Page had a fantastic match. Like, absolutely. You open the show with this, and there is blood everywhere. Both of these guys bleeding like stuffed pigs. This was Hangman's signature match, right? This was the match that you're like, yeah, this is your title run.
I thought,
go.
Absolutely. What a perfect way to put the guy over. really to bring in a guy from the other company to give him a draw and a victory. I thought it was absolutely perfect. Now, in my mind, for a minute, I said, well, would it have hurt if they put the belt on Danielson? But then you realize Hangman is a star, and he's a star for the right reasons. Got the total package. He's over, can talk, got the look, and he can wrestle. And the series of matches now that he's had with Danielson, oh my God, this is what bringing in, and this is why you bring in top talent, because they make each other better. And the only way you do that is by performances, by going out there in front of an audience and making it happen. And it was perfectly timed, 30, 35 minutes. You had a clear-cut victory. It made it so that his move was over. One-time buckshot, 1, 2, 3, call it a day. And it was perfectly executed. I think the best way to start off your run on TBS. But I will ask because, you got the haters that are online, the media critics. You got the likes of Dave Meltzer, who's a big, big influencer. He's the individual, if you don't know, who rates matches with stars. And if he gets a 5-star, 6-star match, then people just go apeshit over his ratings. And it's constantly debated. Whether you agree with the validity or not, he's an influencer. And he posted the ratings and said, basically, TBS got 1 million. But he kind of hinted with his tweet that, and you can go online and see it, that, this was it was packed that first hour with stars. And I had messaged you guys in the group, this lineup is solid. You're getting all the big hitters. He kind of hinted, though, that they only got 1 million for a lineup that was pretty strong on a debuting situation. Do you take into account that? Or, of course, Tony Khan spun it where he said that, hey, our bosses were happy, so we're happy. But do you believe in any kind of way, before we hit the pay-per-view, that maybe Tony Khan and his antics online has hurt the company in any way when you go up and you take a racial stance and release somebody and kind of upset the locker room, upset the apple cart? You think in any way it's going to start potentially rubbing people the wrong way? Because, you did put a championship, you put the TBS title on Jade Cargill, which is great, but at the same time, it comes on the heels of Tony Khan really pissing off a lot of people when he said that Big Swole couldn't wrestle. And that he pulled out the I got black friends card when he said, "How are you guys talking about race when the executives are brown?" And you're like, "Oh, that's not that's not exactly the message you wanted to send publicly." He didn't apologize. And
look,
what do you think about that? What do you think about that?
I think a lot's been blown out of proportion by Big Swole. I'm gonna take Tony Khan's side in this, and I think this is, and I might get myself in trouble here, and I'm okay with that. It's fine. I think she was a little bit out of line. If you don't feel like you're being represented, or your culture or your community is being represented, well, then do something about it.
Say something. Go to the management. Say something.
Like be better then. Like if you feel like one, women aren't being represented enough in this wrestling program, or two, you don't feel like black people or black women are being represented enough in this program, well, then do something about it. Get better. Be better. Like Big Swole has been given a long rope. If you go back and you watch some of her matches, she's had multiple matches in prime time, and I don't think any of them really kept you around or really kept your eyes on the TV. I think for her to come out and say that, I think there's some bitter feelings there. I think there's a little bit of harshness there. And I just really and truly, when it comes down to it, I don't think Tony Khan's seen a moneymaker there. I think with Jade Cargill, you got a bit of a moneymaker. Jade Cargill's got a look to her, right? She's ripped. Like, she is cut. She needs Band-Aids all over. She's so cut. And me and you both agree she's not great in the ring, but when she gets in there with somebody who knows what they're doing, like, she had a really good match against Ruby Soho. She had a really poor match against Thunder Rosa. And Thunder Rosa is a fantastic wrestler. For some reason, that match was just a clunker. That happens sometimes. Her and Ruby Soho, it was a pretty solid match. It wasn't too bad. I think what's going on here is you have somebody who's trying to use the race card, and she's trying to leverage that, and she's then trying to point to what goes on in WWE and say, well, it's so much better over here. Look at what they do. And like you and I have talked about it ad nauseum, WWE is extremely racist with all the bullshit that they pull. AEW, when Tony Khan comes out and says, well, both the executives are brown. Okay, hold on. Pump the brakes a little bit, bro. You're Middle Eastern, and it's different, okay? I get what you're saying, but it's different. Pump the brakes. But what he should have did, what he could have said is, if you look at who is basically the heads of this company, Brandy Rhodes is a female. Brandy Rhodes is too black, and she's an executive. And she's the one who basically deals with all of the women. She is like the lead booking agent for all of the women's matches. So if you got a problem with somebody, you got a problem with the black woman. You don't got a problem with the brown guy. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
To me, it's nuts. I'm going to support Tony Khan in this all day. I think she was out of line.
What do you think about Battle of the Belts? At this time of recording, we're recording this on Friday before Rampage. Maybe a big announcement going to take place. Maybe some additional matches added to the card. Right now, it seems like just a couple belts are on the line at this point.
Just two are on the list right now, and it's really weird to me because I thought this was going to be a big pay-per-view. I was trying to get you to come over. I was trying to have a little wrestling party over at the house, and we were just going to kick back, drink some brews, and just kind of chill out and watch some wrestling. Of course, we'd have to do it around 4 dogs that are super annoying, and I apologize for that. But this card has me severely disappointed, and I'm a little bit sad by it right now. Right now, all we've got is the women's championship match with Britt Baker taking on Rio. And I think Britt Baker is going to win that. I don't necessarily think that there should be any reason she should lose that belt. And then we've got the TNT championship with Cody Rhodes taking on Sammy Guevara. And I don't know how you strip Cody Rhodes of the belt that he just won. So I just don't know where we're going with this paper. It's supposed to be a pay-per-view. This is one of those we give it to you on free TV awesome cards that's supposed to be pretty fantastic. And this is TNT trying to capitalize on the wrestling bus. But I'll be honest with you, I'm a little bit sad. I'm a little bit disappointed by this card.
I think I'm just surveying the landscape here, and I'm on WrestlingInc.com, and it says AEW is scheduled to announce a change to the card for Saturday's Battle of the Belts event. AEW noted on Twitter last night that a change has been made to the card due to medical protocol.
Yep. So it sounds like somebody's got COVID.
Yeah, exactly. So AEW only has 2 matches announced for the 1-hour Battle of the Belts event. Rio, it's just real simple. No titles change hands. It's going to be Britt Baker and, in my opinion, it's going to be Cody Rhodes. So maybe they'll just add something in the mix there, but we'll see what happens with it. But not enough to do a full preview. We'll wait until the Royal Rumble potentially to kick off our battle. Congrats to you. You destroyed me. You won the 2021 battle. I won the 2020 battle, so we're 1-1. And now we kick off 2022, and we'll continue to bring great previews of pay-per-views, give our opinions on all things professional wrestling. Cuz, hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes. What made your list?
All right, so going back to day one in that pay-per-view, I mentioned it earlier, but Seth Rollins was originally the person who was rumored to have been the one to win that fatal 4-way that turned into a fatal 5-way with Brock Lesnar winning it. If I'm Big E and if I'm Roman Reigns, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be a little bit pissed here. I'm going to be a little bit salty, but I'll take my lumps. It's wrestling. This is how it works. This is what we do. Now, WWE made a bunch of news ahead of the day one pay-per-view, as they've had a massive COVID outbreak causing WWE to change its testing procedures from twice weekly to not testing at all. And they will be following the CDC recommendation of a 5-day quarantine instead of a 10-day. Now, with the 5-day, you've got to test on your 5th day, and it has to come back negative, and on your 6th day, it has to come back negative. So it's actually a 6-day quarantine is what they're going with. And this is basically to make sure that it doesn't mess up storylines. It doesn't wreck storylines. Make sure that they can have their guys for the matches that they are basically trumpeting that they're going to have. Now, masks are now mandatory at all times backstage, and fines will be imposed for anybody not complying with wearing a mask. Now, Bill Goldberg is dealing with a nagging injury. The WWE Hall of Famer said last week on the Pat McAfee show that his shoulder has been destroyed for at least 3 to 8 years. He went on to say, it's one of those things. He said of the surgery, here's the deal. If Vince calls me tomorrow morning and says, hey, Goldberg, we need you this month. What am I going to do if I get surgery, right? I got to get her done when it's time. 55-year-old also confirmed that he has one more match left on his current deal with WWE. That'll probably be that Saudi Arabia match that Doc mentioned earlier. Now, according to PW Insider Mike Johnson, you can expect to see more Edge. Edge is scheduled to start to appear on several episodes of Raw following the day one pay-per-view, almost moving this part-timer back to full-time Don't be surprised if you see Beth Phoenix incorporated into some of these angles, as it looks like we're going to get a Ms. Maurice, Beth Phoenix, Edge storyline coming up soon. And that's it for this week's wrestling news and notes, my man.
Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Anywhere that your favorite podcast is housed, make sure you type in Detroit Sports Podcast, and then you can download our daily content covering all things Detroit sports, Detroit Lions, Tigers, Pistons, Wings, and the world of professional wrestling. Kicked it off strong this year. Can't wait to see who gets over, who falls out, who rises, who falls. The beef between AEW and WWE continues. You got CM Punk dropping the names. You got CM Punk making a reference about WrestleMania being a multi-day event. You got MJF openly telling.
That was so great.
That was an epic moment. MJF just basically saying, hey, I'm a free agent, and if I'm not treated well, I'm going to kick this off. So that little bit of inside rub is really cool as hell. So make sure you stay with the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast as we break it all down. Everything going on in the world of wrestling each and every week as we go strong for 2022. Thanks, cuz.